power of the cross. We're so happy to have you all here with us this morning. I'm sitting here with Brother Farrell Wilson from the Lighthouse Church. My name is Stacy Blake, and we have a special guest with us here today on the program. Brigitte Gabriel is here. She is an author, and I'm just gonna actually allow her to tell you all of her accomplishments. I do know that she is a New York Times bestselling author, and we want to just dive right in this morning. Good morning, Brigitte.
Good morning. Delighted to be with you.
Happy to have you here on The Power of the Cross. We know that you are a very accomplished author. Can you just dive right in and tell us a little bit about your new book that you have coming out?
Well, my new book, Rise, came out 8 weeks ago, and it's titled Rise, in Defense of Judeo-Christian Values and Freedom. And I titled my book Rise because America as we know it is being transformed before our very eyes. The flag that once flew on every street corner is now considered a hate symbol on college campuses. Athletes who used to break out in tears of pride during the national anthem are now kneeling in protest. Patriotism is seen as hateful. Freedom of speech is being eliminated by the tyranny of tolerance, and police are being targeted by criminals and thugs while the mainstream media victimizes their killers. Our public schools are used to promote Islamic propaganda inside the classroom. Unvetted immigration is rampant, and Christmas is under assault. Our nation is at a crossroad of irreversible consequences, and the Judeo-Christian values it was founded upon are under attack both from abroad and from within. This is why I titled my book Rise, Rise in Defense of Judeo-Christian Values and Freedom.
Wow. I tell you what, it is a sad day in our country right now. I know that the information that you have for us today is going to be very valuable to Christians, and we cannot wait to hear everything that you have to say. Brother Farrell.
Brigitte, good morning, and I'm just so glad to have you on here. One thing I would like you, if you could share with us, I've read your testimony, and I know it's kind of long, but I wanted to give you a few minutes just to share that testimony, where you come from. And one thing that I see in our country that I know you have a lot of firsthand knowledge in is radical Islam and what's happening in our country. And I know that's kind of a couple of questions in one there, but if you could, would you share with us that?
Well, you know, people that hear me speak, Farrell, always tell me, Brigitte, where does this passion come from? Well, this passion comes from my childhood. You see, my 9/11 happened to me in Lebanon in 1975 when radical Islamists blew up my home, bringing it down, burying me under the rubble wounded. I ended up in a hospital for 2.5 months, and as I laid in a hospital bed, hooked up to IVs in both arms, going from one surgery to another, I would ask my father, why did they do this to us? And my daddy would tell me they hate us because they consider us infidels and they want to kill us. So I learned since I was a 10-year-old little girl that I am wanted dead simply because I was born into the Christian faith and lived in a Christian town. I ended up leaving the hospital and coming back home, but my home was no longer the home I left. I ended up living in a bomb shelter underground in an 8x10 room without electricity, without water, and very little food. And that's where I lived for the next 7 years of my life, from the age of 10 till the age of 17, robbed of my youth. So I understand what happens when people turn a blind eye to evil, thinking it's not going to happen to me. It's all the way over there. Who cares what happens over there? Let them all kill each other. They've been killing each other for 2,000 years. I've heard people say that straight to my face. Well, today, the evil that was over there is now over here and all over the globe. Air travel, countries, people being able to travel easily between countries have transformed the world. And 9/11/2001, when the attacks happened, it made me realize that the evil that I left behind in the Middle East has come to the United States. And on that day, I was watching television like all of us. We were all glued to our TV sets, watching the images of the World Trade Center come down again and again and again. We all felt the same way. We all felt frustrated, brokenhearted, sad, devastated. We couldn't believe that someone hates us so much that they could hijack planes and use them as human missiles and fly them into skyscrapers. On that day, my young daughter, I have 2 young daughters, and one of them said to me, they came home from school, they didn't know what happened, and my younger daughter, who was around my age, said to me, "Mommy, why did they do this to us?" And I found myself answering my daughter with the same answer my father gave to me when I was her age laying in a hospital bed. They hate us because they consider us infidels and they want to kill us. Here we were, 2 generations apart. I was a young Lebanese girl. She's a young American girl. I spoke Arabic. She speaks English. 8,000 miles away, 2 continents apart, 30 years apart. And I had to repeat to my daughter the exact same word my father said to me. That day was my defining moment. That's the day I vowed that I will do everything I can to make sure that my daughter will never ever have to look into her child's eyes and repeat to him or to her what my daddy said to me and what I had to say to her. That day, I was reborn as an activist.
It gives you a determination, doesn't it?
I mean, it's something that changed my life, and since then, I knew. See, I was fortunate enough to realize my purpose at a young age. A lot of people live a lifetime without ever realizing their purpose. I knew that whatever God put me through, or whatever God allowed for me to go through, was nothing more than preparation to make a difference in this world, to be used in His kingdom to make a difference. Because I'm a firm believer that no matter what trials and tribulation we go through in our life, and those of you who are listening to us right now, no matter what you're going through right now, it is preparation for God to use you. I'm a firm believer that God doesn't change the world using lightning in the sky. God uses His people as instruments of change. So while we don't understand why we go through things, why we have to lose our job or lose a parent or lose a child or lose a brother or a sister to whatever, disease, murder, crime, drugs, whatever it is, whatever we go through is a preparation to make a difference. In my case, because terrorism affected my life so personally, and because national security was so important to my life in my formative years, after 9/11, I was driven to start something that will make sure that America is safe and secure for generations to come. So I started Act for America, actforamerica.org. Right now, we are the largest national security grassroots organization in the country. We have 1 million members. We have activists nationwide. We have helped pass 100 bills on the federal level and the state level to protect America. So I encourage everyone listening to go to our website, actforamerica.org, actforamerica.org. And we named the organization Act for America. Not think about America, not wish for America, not hope for America, not pray for America. You can do all the above. But without taking action, without acting for America, nothing happens. actforamerica.org. Go today, sign up to get our emails and action alert. Stand with us, become a member. We need you involved and activated to make a difference for the country.
Thank you for listening to The Power of the Cross. We pray this message is a blessing to you. You can access our sermons at grenadachurch.com. We also ask for your financial support in helping us reach the world with the gospel. You can donate to our ministry by secure means at grenadachurch.com and click Donate. That's grenadachurch.com and click Donate. Now, back to the message.
You said you had your defining moment, and mine certainly is not as personal and had, such a threat to one's life as you had. I've never been involved in any terrorist act, but a few years back I was in Memphis, Tennessee, and I knew a little bit about Islam, but as we were staying in a hotel, I looked across the way from the hotel, and there was an Islamic training center. And my eyes were kind of open, here in the South, even in Memphis, we're starting to see the infiltration of Islam into the South. And one of the things that in bringing this to a topic that I want to be at, just to touch on just a moment, is the migrant caravans. We're hearing that ISIS could be slipping in these caravans. Do you think that these people are infiltrating through the border, through the caravans?
Well, we know that there are bad agents within this caravan, not only terrorists, and not only, members and sympathizers with ISIS, but also look at Hezbollah. We know that Hezbollah has operation training centers in Central and South America, where they actually train people on how to speak a little Spanish so they can blend in and come to the United States. We also know that Hezbollah was working with the drug cartels and is working with the drug cartels. It was Hezbollah that taught the drug cartels on how to dig tunnel technology between Mexico and into the United States to smuggle drugs. Hezbollah perfected the tunnel digging technology between Lebanon and Israel, in southern Lebanon. And now they're working with the drug cartels because it's a win-win situation. The cartels can smuggle drugs into the United States and Hezbollah can smuggle its agents. So with this caravan, we know that they have human traffickers, MS-13 gang members. Look, just a few days ago in California, they arrested an MS-13 gang member who was actually deported from the United States before, who's been smuggled into the country before, arrested and deported because of committing crime here, and now he's back with the caravan, and they rearrested him again. And he was bragging about how he came through the caravan. Mm-hmm. This is why we need to be very careful, not to mention the diseases that they are bringing with them. So you have the terrorist element, you have the disease element. In my book, Rise, I have a whole chapter titled Replacement Civilization, where I talk about immigration and what's happening in our immigration system. And I talk about the health risks and what these people are bringing with them, illegal aliens. Right now, in the United States, we have seen a surge in dangerous diseases like dengue fever, leprosy, malaria, HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, rubella, syphilis, typhus, whooping cough, and many, many others. The news yesterday on television and radio, we're talking about some people in this caravan who are bringing with them HIV, who have already been diagnosed with HIV and tuberculosis. And those are the new ones coming in. What I just read to you that I have in my book is from those people who came before them. So this is why we have to be very careful about who we are letting into the country and whether or not we should let them in. My opinion is we need to be safe. We should not let people in. And I know a lot of Christians say, well, Brigitte, but we are Christians. We need to love everybody. We need to let everybody in. We can love everybody. We don't have to let them in. In John chapter 10, verse 1, the Bible says, he that enters not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbs up some other way, is a thief and a robber. But he that enter in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. And he continues in verse 10, he said, the thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. So the Bible is very clear about people coming into your home and be allowed to come through the door, not climbing on the wall. So, yes, we can take care of people among us. Yes, we can take care of people. I know in Matthew he says we need to take care of strangers amongst us, and we do. This is why we bring refugees into the United States. Look at all the refugees we brought in. We take care of them. Look at all the refugees we brought in from Syria and the Middle East by the hundreds of thousands in the last 5 years. We gave them jobs. We give them welfare. We give them housing. We do take care of the strangers amongst us. But that does not mean we need to allow the thieves and the murderers to break into our country, climbing over walls to get here. The Bible even discourages that.
We totally agree with that.
You don't know how thankful we are for a voice that is standing up in this day and age and saying what needs to be said. But I do want to give you just a few more moments. I'm going to ask this question. If we don't act in America, if we do not stand up for the values this country was founded on, and we don't stand up for Christian values, and we allow Islam to come in, this may be a different kind of question, but what would you foresee America looking like in say, another 5 years if we don't act upon this?
Well, we're going to lose our country until we act now to save our country. And when you look at Europe, Europe has become Eurabia. And Europe is a preview as to what's coming to the United States. In my chapter about immigration, and I'm going to share with you a quick quote from the Pew Research, they talk about the trend on how many people have, between the refugees and the illegal immigrants that came to the country and the chain migration, we are taking so many people into the country that we cannot support. It says if this trend continues, immigrants and their descendants are projected to account for 88% of the U.S. population growth by 2065. 88% of America by 2065 are going to be people who are not born here, who have no loyalty to our country, who do not share our values. America will be transformed before our very eyes. It will be unrecognizable. I encourage everybody listening to this interview to learn more. If this message resonates with you, go to our website, actforamerica.org, and sign up and join us. Find out more about us. Stand with us and get my book, Rise, in Defense of Judeo-Christian Values and Freedom. The book is available at Walmart, Sam's Club, Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, and every place where fine books are sold. Please get the book, share it, read it, give it as a gift to your friends, buy multiple copies, share them at your church, give them as gifts to libraries, put them in libraries so people can read the message.
You know, Islam, we hear one side of it. We hear on the media, oh, this is just a fun-loving, great group of people. But I have a copy of the Quran myself, and even with the Quran and hearing what you know, the radical Islam and what they're saying, it sounds like to me that they want to, you know, push Israel off into the ocean and watch America burn. Now, if I'm wrong in that, correct me, but it just seems like a double standard there. And we're hearing this on the media, in our communities. Maybe we can touch on that just a minute.
Well, you know, it's amazing. I'm going to start with the education part because, you know, Hitler made a very important statement. Hitler said, give me the children and I will change society in 10 years. And that's exactly what he did in Germany. So in America today, I have a chapter in the book titled Operation Indoctrination. And it's about the brainwashing of our kids in our schools. It started on college campuses because this is going to lead me to answer your question. On college campuses, and I'm talking back in 1991, they started pumping millions into our universities. I'm talking money flowing from Saudi Arabia and the Arab Gulf because of the oil. Setting up Middle East study departments and political science departments and appointing Arab professors who are anti-Israel and anti-America to teach our children that America is bad and Israel is evil and the Islamic world is the underdog. And to give you an idea of the extent of the money peddling that has gone into our universities, the King of Saudi Arabia donated $22 million to Harvard University. $21.8 million was donated to Georgetown from two Saudi sheikhs linked to Al-Qaeda. $5 million to Columbia University. $5 million to Rutgers University. $21 million to the University of Arkansas. I can go on and on. I have a whole list in my book. So when I talk about the brainwashing of our students, it started on college campuses. And people tell me, Brigitte, and this started over 25 years ago. And people tell me, Brigitte, why is the media so biased? I tell them, why are you surprised? Because for the last 25 years plus, all these students studying, being fed a steady diet of hate and resentment against America, against Israel, are today the news anchors, the news writers, the news reporters, the policy makers, the policy shapers. Remember, we had an apologizer-in-chief for a president with President Obama. So the strategy worked so well on college campuses, and they decided, why don't we do the same thing with the kids before they even get to college? So they started teaching Islam in our public schools in 6th and 7th grade and all the way up through high school. And they started with a course titled the Islam course, where students had to study Islam for 3 weeks, adopt Islamic names, memorize and recite verses of the Quran, recite the Shahada, which is the Islamic salvation prayer, and go to a mosque on a field trip to experience what it's like to be a Muslim. And this started happening in our public schools back in 1991. So today when we wake up, today across America, in January, February, they have a World Hijab Day where our daughters, our girls, dress up in a hijab to experience what it's like to be a Muslim. Now, can you imagine having a World Cross Day where students are allowed to wear crosses and go into schools? Can you imagine if a pastor walks into a school and says, okay, we're going to study the Bible for 3 weeks, you're going to adopt Christian names, you're going to memorize and recite verses from the Bible, you're going to say the salvation prayer, and you're going to come with me on Sunday to church to experience what it's like to be a Christian. What do you think the ACLU would do? The problem is most people have no idea what has been happening in our public schools nationwide. But in my book, Rise, I use it as a wake-up call for people to realize how we are losing our children, how we are losing God in our society. How did we go from children raised in our country being taught about, I shall never tell a lie, the story of George Washington and the cherry tree. How did we go from those children to members of Antifa who are born and raised in the United States, went to schools in the United States, paid for by our tax dollars, yet today they feel they can kill, they can steal, they can lie, they can cheat, they can block highways, they can show up with demonstrations with machetes and brass knuckles and attack and even kill other Americans. How did we get there? We got there through the education system. If for nothing, the chapter in my book titled Operation Indoctrination is a must-read for every American to understand how we got to this point. And the title of the book is Rise. It's a must-read for every person concerned about this nation.
Thank you once again for listening to The Power of the Cross. Our desire is for you to grow in the knowledge of the Lord. We have a vast library of teachings on our website available for free download. Go to grenadachurch.com and click Sermons. If you have questions or prayer requests, go to grenadachurch.com and click Contact. Now, back to the message.
I know this question is going to come up. I know that I'll get an email or somebody will call me. Is there a difference between radical Islam and the Islam that we're being presented on talk shows and media saying, oh, we're peaceful?
Absolutely. While a lot of Muslims are peaceful people who are not strapping bombs on their bodies and going out to blow themselves up, the agenda is driven by the radical. The ideology by itself is a radical ideology. The Quran, the Hadith, and the Sirah, the three books that make up the religion of Islam, it's a faith. It's basically a political movement cloaked in religion. The ideology calls for the death and the killing of the infidels. It is not peaceful. Islam in Arabic means submission. The word salam means peace. But Islam, when you put the E before salam, it means submission. You know, American, the word, it's like the difference between bird and beard. You know, for somebody whose English is not their first language, a bird is a bird that flies in the sky, and a beard is a beard on a man's face. I used to mix the two together when I first learned English. So for Americans, it's so easy to be deceived by thinking, Islam means peace. No, it does not mean peace. It means submission. So while the majority of Muslims around the world are peaceful, the ideology by itself is a violent, radical ideology that calls for the subjugation of infidels, that calls for the killing for non-believers, which they consider non-believers are non-Muslims. Islam divided the world into two camps. Dar al-Islam, the house of Islam, and Dar al-Harb, the house of war. And the house of war means any people and any land that has not yet been conquered by Islam. And that's why when the radicals and the moderates get into a debate together, the radicals always win the debate because the law is on their side.
Wow.
You are so informative. I'm sitting here, I know I look dumbfounded. I'm like, what, really? And I didn't know some of these facts that you brought to the table. I had no idea. You know, as we talk about your book, and we touched on many things in your book, explain one more time how your book is going to help the readers, once they get this book in their hands, how they're going to understand what they can do to fight the forces that aim to undermine our nation. How can they fight back?
A great question. Almost all books educate, but what makes my book so different is at the end of every chapter, I have a section titled Rise Up and Act, where I give people ideas and tips as to what they can do to make a difference for the country. 3 things you can do under 10 minutes that will make a difference for the country, and you can do them while sipping your cup of coffee in the morning in your pajamas sitting in front of your computer. And that's what makes this book unique. At the end of every chapter, whether I'm talking about Operation Indoctrination, about what's happening in our school system, whether I'm talking about immigration, whether I'm talking about the deaths of free speech, I have a whole chapter on the deaths of free speech. I give tips at the end of every chapter as to what you can do about this subject that will make a difference. And the last chapter of the book, chapter 15, is all about activism. I even give people sample letters to the editor that literally you can add your name, the name of your newspaper, and mail it to them about different issues, different letters where you can express your opinion about different topics, letters you can mail to your members of Congress. I give links to Congress, phone numbers for switchboards, things they can call about, bills coming down for a vote, where you can sign up for free to be notified before a bill is voted upon, so you can call your member of Congress. We made it very easy on our website, actforamerica.org. I encourage people to go there and sign up to get our action alerts as well, because we update you on the bills. Like in my book, Rise, I mentioned the bills that are now presented under this Congress. They may be given different numbers under the new Congress. We want to make sure that people will be able to know what to say, when to call, how to call about the bills coming down for a vote. And I tell you, the book Rise is a must-read for every church member, for every pastor. I encourage pastors who are listening to us right now, get multiple copies of this book, put it at the church library. Make sure your members read it. Make sure you sell it at your church. Make sure you give it as a book reading assignment for your youth group in your church. Make sure you donate it to local libraries in your community. Start an Act for America chapter in your church. This is how this book educates people on how not to only be frustrated learning what's happening in our country, but what you can do to make a difference for our country and how you can be used as an instrument in God's hand to take America back and save America.
Brigitte, in a nation that seems to have become so passive in the last few years, you have truly made it easy for us to be able to act, as you said, and do something instead of just sitting in our recliners thinking, well, there's nothing we can do. We may as well just waste away. We don't have to do that. We can actually act upon what God has given us.
Yeah.
Exactly. Every single one of us can be used by God as an instrument of change. I hope that everybody listening right now will ask themselves, what is my purpose? Why did God make me listen to this interview? What is God asking me to do? I pray that you pray, whoever's listening to this interview right now, that you would pray and ask God, what does He want you to do and how does He want you to get involved? And I urge you, and I would hope that you prayerfully consider standing with us, going to our website, joining us, and even standing with us financially if you are able. Become a part of an army taking back America and protecting America and preserving our values, our Judeo-Christian values, which are under assault right now. We need to take our country back, and it's up to us. It's up to the body of Christ to mobilize to take America back right now.
Absolutely. And we thank you so much today, Brigitte, for your time and your information. We feel a little more educated today as we walk out the door, and we know that our listeners will certainly appreciate all the information you give. Give your website to order your book one more time, if you would, please.
Yes, the website is actforamerica.org, actforamerica.org, and the book is Rise. There's information on the book also on the website. The book is available everywhere where fine books are sold. And one thing I have to add, I would love to come and speak at your churches. Any pastors who are listening to us right now, whether via broadcast or the internet, if you're a pastor of a church and this message resonates with you, I would love to come and share my testimony at your church. We need to wake up the body of Christ, and I would love to help you do that in your community.
Brigitte, thank you so much, Pastor.
And it's been such a pleasure, and hope we can do this again soon. This is Pastor Wilson from Power of the Cross. We would love to hear from you. You can drop us a line with your questions, comments, and prayer requests at P.O. Box 2441, Grenada, Mississippi 38902. Again, that is P.O. Box 2441, Grenada, Mississippi 38902. Or you can go to the internet at grenadachurch.com and click contact, and there you'll find a secure form to message us, or you can just simply email us at radio@grenadachurch.com. God bless.